Venezuela is pushing to claim Guyana's Essequibo region. This is not just about land. It's a battle over billions of barrels of oil and a dangerous power grab. With allies like Russia and Iran fueling the tension, this regional dispute is escalating into a global crisis. Guyana, a small but resource-rich country, stands up to its giant neighbor, while powerful allies step in to prevent another Ukraine-style invasion. What happens when a small nation faces an enormous threat over land rich in oil and gold? Venezuela wants to take over a big part of Guyana. What happens next? Guyana, a small South American country, is facing a big threat from its neighbor, Venezuela. Venezuela wants to take over a large part of Guyana called Essequibo, which is rich in oil, gold, and other resources. This area makes up nearly 2/3 of Guyana, but has only about 100,000 people living there. Venezuela's leader, Nicolás Maduro, held a vote claiming 95% of Venezuelans support taking Essequibo. But reports say many polling stations were empty, making the vote unfair. Why does Venezuela want this land? Guyana, once a poor country, is now growing fast thanks to huge oil reserves, over 11 billion barrels. This could make Guyana very wealthy, like Kuwait. Meanwhile, Venezuela's economy is struggling due to corruption and mismanagement. Instead of fixing its problems, Venezuela seems to want Guyana's resources. This situation is similar to Russia's attack on Ukraine. Venezuela is acting like Essequibo already belongs to them, sending workers to prepare for drilling, making new maps, and creating a group to control the area. The big question is, will Venezuela send its military to take Essequibo by force? If that happens, Guyana is in trouble. Its military is small, with only about 4,000 troops, while Venezuela's army is much larger, better equipped, and trained by countries like Russia and Cuba. Guyana is asking for help from powerful allies like the US and Brazil. Brazil has already sent soldiers to the border as a warning to Venezuela. The world can't ignore this. If Venezuela takes land by force, it could set a dangerous example for other countries. That's why the US, Brazil, and the UK are stepping in. The US is flying military planes over Guyana, and experts say they should do more, like sending Navy ships and holding military exercises near Venezuela. History shows that ignoring such threats is a mistake. The world didn't act fast enough when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990 or when Russia attacked Ukraine. If the US and its allies wait too long, Venezuela might go through with its plan, and stopping them later could be much harder. There's still a chance to prevent a war by standing strong against Maduro. If he sees Guyana has powerful friends ready to help, he may back off. But if he thinks no one will stop him, he might just take what he wants. The big fight over Essequibo, a land full of oil and history. Lloyd Pereira has always known the danger looming over his home in Essequibo, a vast region of Guyana. Growing up in Huacapoa, a peaceful riverside village, he heard stories of Venezuela's claim to the land. Now, as a village chief, that fear has resurfaced after Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro held a vote to annex Essequibo, claiming 98% support. This isn't just about land, it's about oil. In 2015, massive oil and gas reserves were discovered in Essequibo, with estimates of over 11 billion barrels. Maduro called it a historic battle, ordering Venezuelan companies to start drilling immediately. The move has left Guyanese citizens anxious. In Huacapoa, children have stopped attending school due to fears of conflict. A taxi driver in Charity voiced the uncertainty. "We've never been in a war. What will we do?" Guyana's President Mohamed Irfan Ali has vowed to protect the country, but Maduro has already declared Essequibo part of Venezuela. Meanwhile, Guyanese citizens are resisting. Protests have erupted, with school children singing patriotic songs and leaders like indigenous activist Jean LaRose urging people to stay strong. Stay in your homes. That is what your ancestors left for you. Tensions remain high despite a December agreement to resolve the dispute peacefully. Venezuela reacted angrily to a British warship conducting training exercises in Guyana, calling it a military threat and responding with its own drills. Yet Guyana's economy continues to thrive. ExxonMobil, an American multinational oil and gas corporation, remains committed to the region, and the World Bank has named Guyana one of the world's fastest-growing economies. Investors haven't been deterred by Venezuela's threats. In contrast, Venezuela's economy is in crisis, fueling its aggressive push for Essequibo. In Huacapoa, Pereira sees Warao indigenous people from Venezuela arriving in search of food and shelter, a stark reminder of their suffering. The fight over Essequibo is far from over. Guyana awaits a decision from the International Court of Justice, but for Pereira, the answer is clear. Essequibo is my home. It belongs to Guyana, and I will die here. Tensions rise between Guyana and Venezuela over border dispute. Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, is not happy after a Venezuelan Coast Guard ship entered Guyana's waters and got too close to an offshore oil facility. Venezuela claimed it was in disputed international waters, but Ali quickly shut that down, saying that Guyana's maritime borders are recognized by international law. He called the move a serious concern and made it clear that his government is handling the situation with responsibility. To respond, Ali summoned Venezuela's ambassador to his office to express his strong protest and told Guyana's embassy in Venezuela to officially complain. But he didn't stop there. He also ordered a military response, sending air patrols and Coast Guard ships to make sure Guyana's waters were protected. Ali reassured everyone that Guyana wanted peace but wouldn't tolerate any threats to its territory. Meanwhile, the United States and the Organization of American States, OAS, have backed Guyana, strongly criticizing Venezuela's actions. The OAS warned that such intimidation breaks international law, puts regional peace at risk, and could make tensions worse. The U.S. also said that if Venezuela continues these moves, there will be consequences for its government. This is just the latest chapter in a long-standing dispute between Guyana and Venezuela over land and sea borders. Venezuela has been claiming the Essequibo region, which makes up 2/3 of Guyana, saying that an old boundaries agreement in the 1890s cheated them out of the land. However, Guyana has controlled it since 1966, after gaining independence from Britain. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has even threatened to take the region by force. Last year, both countries' leaders met and agreed not to threaten or attack each other, but they never settled the border issue. Now, with this latest incident, tensions are rising again, and many are watching closely to see what happens next. Venezuela's allies and its growing tensions with Guyana. Russia and Venezuela are really close friends, kind of like teammates. And they work together with Cuba. Some people even call them the axis of disorder. Venezuela is super important to Russia because it's close to the United States, has tons of oil and gas, and is part of a group called OPEC that controls a lot of the world's oil. But Russia doesn't get along well with Guyana, especially after Guyana took away a Russian company's permission to mine bauxite, a type of mineral, because of problems with workers' rights and Russia meddling in Guyana's elections. To help Venezuela's leader Nicolás Maduro stay in power, Russia and Cuba send people to stop protests and keep things under control. At the same time, Venezuela is also friends with Iran. Iran's military groups like the IRGC and Hezbollah are in Venezuela, helping them build up their military with things like drones, fast boats, and skills for air attacks. Their goal is to cause trouble for Guyana's energy and mining industries. Venezuela's airline, Conviasa, works with Iran's Mahan Air to help move weapons around the world. Venezuela has even been making Iranian drones since around 2012. And the two countries trade oil to help each other's economies. Meanwhile, Guyana is doing really well because of its oil industry. Companies like ExxonMobil are helping Guyana produce a lot of oil. And by 2026, they're expected to make 750,000 barrels of oil every day. This has made Guyana's economy grow super fast. Guyana and its neighbor Suriname also have natural gas and bauxite, which could help the region make aluminium. However, if Venezuela causes more problems or tries to attack Guyana's oil facilities, it could mess up the global oil market and cause prices to go up. This might also scare away investors, making companies think twice about putting money into the region. Looking ahead, Maduro is using armed groups and the National Guard to stay in power, while keeping the regular army away from cracking down on protests. 5 top generals were fired because they refused to go against their own people. If opposition leader Maria Corina Machado keeps organizing protests and avoids getting arrested, Maduro's security forces might have a hard time keeping control. But as long as Maduro can pay his soldiers and police and keep getting help from countries like Cuba, Russia, Iran, and China, he'll probably stay in power. Even if the US puts more sanctions on Venezuela, Maduro will likely use force, control the media, and rely on his allies to survive. To make things worse, Venezuela now has missile boats made by Iran that could be used to scare off oil exploration ships near Guyana, kind of like how China intimidates ships in the South China Sea. Instead of starting a big war, Venezuela might keep using small military and political moves to pressure the West, just like Russia, China, and Iran do. They'll probably try to gain more power by constantly making threats and negotiating. What do you think will happen next in the fight over Essequibo? Will Venezuela back down, or will this escalate into a larger conflict? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on this developing situation. Together, we can keep the conversation going.